This is Marketing, Influence, and the Future, an exclusive podcast where we discuss strategies, tools, and techniques in the fields of sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. We also talk about what's working and not working in digital marketing so you can be always up to date. And if that wasn't enough, because we're committed to your growth, we also want to bring you top-notch advice from experts in the field so you can save time, money, and energy in your own journey. So, welcome to the official AeroView Media podcast. Sit tight and enjoy the show. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Marketing, Influence, and the Future. I'm with Jeremy today, and you might already be familiar with him because of the first episode. But if you're not, today I want to dive in deeper into his story, what happened with his journey in entrepreneurship that got him into this new path of online marketing, and most importantly, purpose. That's what this podcast and this episode is all about, purpose. So Jeremy, what's going on, brother?
Hi, Andres. It's great to be here with you today. And I'm very excited about this podcast. I hope we're going to share some interesting stories with our audience.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, man. So I wanted to ask you, take us down memory lane and go deeper into what were you doing before? What got you started on kind of like this journey that you're on right now? And, basically guide us through your story.
Well, okay, I'm going to try to do that and make it interesting and share some parts of my life. So
Definitely.
I just on the 20th of September celebrated my 36th birthday.
Ooh, nice! Happy birthday, bro!
Thank
Again.
you. So yeah, a lot of things have changed since the year I was born in 1981.
Wow.
I feel very lucky that I was part of this generation that got to really see the birth of the personal computer and the internet. And I always was a very early tech adopter, someone who liked to try things out. My first computer, I got it when I was about 9 or 10 years old, 1990, and it was Commodore 64, which is, you can Google it, like really old computer. Back in those days, there were like basically Atari and those Commodore 64. Just to give you this background, so I had a few games, and to play a game.
I love the Atari, dude. I used to play that too, like back in the day, man. Like, it's so key.
Back in the days, a game I had, one of my favorite game was like a flight simulator, and it was played on a tape, like an audio tape. This was the game. It was really interesting that you have an audio tape that you can listen to music, and the same audio tape, the same technology can be used also to play a game on a computer. Just a little anecdote. And so I've always been attracted to business, as far as I can remember. And I was someone who was very curious as a child, and like what you call an autodidact.
I love that. Yeah.
To learn new things, by myself, try by myself.
Like, since you were like super little, like
yes.
how old were you when you were already kind of like finding yourself geeking out on on different things by yourself?
Well, obviously I don't remember so much things like from the age of 3 or 4 or something like that, but I would have to ask my parents about that.
Yeah.
They told me I was quite curious, and the same person also I am today, because I think a lot of things come from childhood, but I think a lot of things also come from your experiences in your childhood. And one of my favorite activities, once I started to read, I remember spending a lot of many hours, especially during the weekend, because my favorite book when I was a kid, I'm talking about like maybe 9, 10 years old, was reading the encyclopedia. Right? So having an encyclopedia, there was no Google back then. So if you wanted to learn something, if you wanted to broaden your knowledge, in there are two ways of learning knowledge. There's like the horizontal way and the vertical way, right? So the spectrum and the depth, right? So you can learn about a lot of things, right? Knowing a little bit about a lot of things, or knowing one thing very deep. So part of my personality was I like to touch and learn new things about a lot of different topics every day.
So like horizontal, really basically.
Yes,
yeah,
basically horizontal like that. From whether it's sports, it's science, it's languages, it's politics, economics, everything. And my father, when I grew up, he was also like a businessman, some kind of entrepreneur, and I think it also has a big impact of who you become to be when you're looking at your parents. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and my father was working. He grew up in Paris, in France, and he went to like a business school in France, a good one in Paris, and then back in the 70s, he went and got accepted for an MBA program in NYU, New York University.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So he was there, and back in those days, for a French person to go and travel all the way to America,
right? It wasn't an easy thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was quite an operation. He told me, the whole logistics to get accepted, make all those tests, and get recommendation letters. Like it was a whole year, almost 2 years
Big
of preparation.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And and then he came back to Europe, and he had the whole idea maybe of going to the financial industry, but somehow he got to know my mother. My mother was born in Germany, in Berlin.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, and both my parents are Jewish, so both of them grew up basically from parents that survived the Holocaust, the Second World War in Europe.
Wow, man, that's a powerful story, definitely.
And of course, all my grandparents. I happen to know personally 3 of my grandparents because my grandfather, my mother's father, I never knew him. I'm actually named also after him, and so he passed away when my mother was about 18. So I didn't get to know him. But all of my grandparents basically had like really, really crazy stories about surviving the 5 years of the Second World War, the Holocaust, being hunted down by by the Germans, by Nazis, having to hide. Really crazy survivor stories. And so they got married after the war. My grandparents, and so definitely it had also an impact on my parents' upbringing.
Of course, man. It definitely changes everything once you got like such near-death experiences and near imprisonment experiences and all that stuff, that it really changes your outlook on life.
Right, and one thing which is something which I think also has a very big impact on entrepreneurship and being such kind of personality of an entrepreneur. A lot of times entrepreneurs are immigrants in their society. And why is that? Because as an immigrant, you're not part, when you come to a new country, you're not automatically being part of the inner circle, right? And having all the doors open to you. You can't use, your existing, maybe your ancestors' connections or any local advantage that you would have. You have to start from zero, right? And a lot of doors for immigrants sometimes are not open. So, for example, I don't know how it, maybe also for you, you can share it later how it is for you when you grew up in Central America, basically, and came also to another country. So I'm sure you have also a very interesting insight to tell as an immigrant, basically.
Yeah.
But so basically, as someone who, as a Jewish person in Europe in the 19th and 20th century, you couldn't. A lot of jobs were not open to you. So basically, you had to find, to make your own business. I had to
Oh
find.
wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was like, I knew it was strict, but I didn't know, it carried all over the 19th and 20th century as well. Like that's
Well,
crazy.
in every country it was a bit different, and for sure in liberal countries they had more options, but
Right.
still, for some reason, a lot of Jews went into business, into commerce, and
Mm-hmm.
buying and selling things, and the reason is that this is what was open to them, right? So they just took
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity they had,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so my grandfather was had his own business, and my father was basically opened his own business in the diamond industry. He was basically.
In the diamond industry? Wow.
Yes,
Very
yes, yes.
cool. Very
Because
cool.
my parents went to live in Belgium, where I was born in Antwerp, in Belgium. And Antwerp
Yes.
is what's called the City of Diamonds. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's one of the biggest centers of diamond trading in the world. I'm talking about wholesale diamond trading. So when people mine diamonds in Africa, and then they
Mm-hmm.
sell them to manufacturers or jewelers. So
Right. The
um,
blood diamonds, right? Like all that
yeah,
all that
exactly.
madness. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when I was a small kid, so I used to go to his office, and I was very excited about this, going to my father's office and his own business. And then
Mm-hmm.
in the early 90s, he saw that there was a decline in the industry of the diamonds.
Oh, in
And
the 90s, eh? Why?
yes,
Why did that
well,
happen?
a lot of things changed in the 90s. A lot of the market changed, the price dropped. There was like a big market crash, I think in
Mm-hmm.
88, 89. So there was like a
Mm-hmm.
downtime in the economy. And the Asians came very strong into this industry and also disrupted
That's right.
Chinese,
Yeah.
Japanese, Indian. So the profitability, the worthwhileness of this industry, uh, the, the gaps went down basically, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
margins
Mm-hmm.
of profit went down, so it was less attractive, especially if you were, like one of the smaller players in your market. It was
Right.
less attractive than before. So he saw that there was no really big future in it, and he tried to switch to another industry, to more like a investment industry, managing basically investment for private people, like
Mm-hmm.
stock market, mutual funds, things like that,
Got
private
it. Got
equity.
it. Mm-hmm.
And um, which led me to another thing. I think I want to share with you that think about my childhood. I think that the two movies, I used to watch a lot of movies. Once again, there was no internet, so
Mm-hmm.
watching a movie on
Yeah, it was
video.
like a big thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I had my father had like a videotape, and I had some movies, and we recorded them, so I could watch them, the replays. I could watch them and watch
Ah,
them and watch
very
them.
cool.
So,
Yes.
so there are some movies I watched over and over again, and the two movies that impacted me the most from the business side, from the entrepreneurial side, one was the famous movie Wall Street.
Okay.
Wall Street by with starring Michael Douglas.
Yeah, yeah. I know which one it
Um,
is, yeah.
yeah, it was a very iconic movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was released around also 91 or something like that. About
Mm-hmm.
the big Wall Street broker making a lot of money on Wall Street trading stocks.
Mm-hmm.
So for a few years I thought my dream was to go to New York and be a big financial guy on Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
because I was very attracted to the trading, buy low, sell high,
Ah, yeah.
negotiation, analyzing things,
That's cool. So
and
is that, would you say that that's one of the moments that kind of got you started on that kind of hunger for entrepreneurship and business and all that stuff?
yes,
Or like, could you even describe maybe like a specific moment that happened, or do you think was like an accumulation of little moments in movies, and like how did that specific thing happen, that epiphany and aha moment that kind of changed the path of where you were going?
I think it was by when you see a movie, it gets your imagination running, because you can see
Yes.
something happening in front of your eyes, a story. And
Mm-hmm.
um, think about it, you might be in one place in the world, or you might be in one situation, and at your age, and that you can see suddenly and not something which is very abstract, but really like a more concrete example of how it would look like, how you can do it, and how someone else did it,
Yes, yes, I love that.
and it turns it to something much more real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the similarity of this would be today when everyone is, you can watch YouTube and seeing vlogging or seeing the real life of
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, and maybe some people like, I don't know, Gary Vaynerchuk or
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone, whatever, Tai Lopez, whatever person you like to watch. I think when you
Yes.
can see how it looks, and you get to feel much more, it becomes more real.
Right. It does become more real, definitely.
So this one movie, and the second movie which impacted me the most,
Yes.
and was a few years later when I was like maybe 18, was Jerry Maguire with Tom
Mm,
Cruise,
right. 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 Right.
and the reason was that one of my my passions as my hobby was sports in general, and
Mm-hmm.
since I grew up in Europe, was soccer, like football, European football. So I
Oh, I
played,
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
voila. So now you learn something new about me. So I used to play every day. I used to watch games. I used even to go to games with friends. Um,
Oh, wow. You're big
yeah,
on it.
I was a big fan. I used to watch all the World Cup. I couldn't, and I didn't want to miss any match. I was really into it, and statistics and albums, and
Mm-hmm.
playing games around football, whatever, everything is
Mm-hmm.
related to that. And this movie basically showed me, how much money there is in sports in general, and how
Mm-hmm.
you can make a lot of money even if you're not playing on the field. If you're not a football player or you're not a football coach, the ones that are making a lot of money are the football agents, being a sport agent, a football
Yeah,
agent.
that's right. Yeah, the ones that kind of control all the, ins and outs of the players and stats and, business aspect of it again.
Exactly, and think about it. It's like, you can be a real estate agent, then you're
Mm-hmm.
brokering a house between a buyer and the seller, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in the sports industry, as a sports agent, you're basically brokering players between different teams
Mm-hmm.
and negotiating contracts and getting commission on that. So once again, it's the whole idea of supply and demand,
Supply and demand. Yeah.
right? And negotiating skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And,
No, that's crazy. Yeah.
and here I saw not only the big money in it, but also an opportunity, because it's something which I was passionate about. Right, you always
Mm-hmm.
want to look for something that you have some advantages, some skill set that you can use,
Mm-hmm.
and also finding like a niche, a market that you can tap into.
Of
So I
course.
saw I had an opportunity over there, and the
Mm-hmm.
way why did I have the opportunity over there? Because I just about this time when I was 18, I moved. Apropos immigration, so myself, I moved countries. I moved from
Mm-hmm.
Belgium with my whole family. We moved to Israel, to Jerusalem, where
Wow. So
where
what,
I am
what
today.
what year did you move?
In 1998,
1998.
summer of 1998, I moved to Israel with my whole family. I settled here.
Wow. That was a big change, eh?
It was a huge change, and it was just my I did my final high school year here in Israel.
Oh, wow. So you were still in high school when you moved, basically.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Wow, that must have been a huge change in not only culture but language too as well, right?
Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
I was lucky to go into a school in Belgium, a Jewish school, which we also had some lessons in the local language in Hebrew. In
Oh,
Israel
in
they speak
Hebrew, yeah,
Hebrew,
yeah.
right? So I was lucky enough to have some basic Hebrew that allowed me to communicate here in Israel. But my parents, they had a much lower level than me. So basically, and I didn't mention, by the way, my parents got divorced when I was like 12.
Oh,
And I'm sure we can also talk hours about that as well.
yeah, of course. That's also an impact, right? Like all like every little thing that happens matters. Like it's all connected. And
Uh,
sorry, by the way, like I'm just walking right now, and I want this podcast obviously to keep going. So I hope that the noise is not distracting for you or the listeners.
No, that's okay. Completely, Anders. Thank you for sharing that information with us. And by the way, yesterday I was just listening to a new podcast by Tim Ferriss. I don't know if
Oh,
you're following his
yes.
podcast, which, by the way,
Yeah,
I recommend to all of you.
I'm not following the podcast, but I did love the Tools of Titans, and I got that book, and I kind of consulted, here and there, and I also read the 4 Hour Work Week. So I mean, I definitely like a lot of the stuff that he preaches.
Right, so I definitely recommend for you guys and all the listeners to go check out Tim Ferriss' podcast. And yesterday he released a podcast episode where he interviewed Richard Branson, the famous
Oh, no way,
entrepreneur.
no way, that's awesome.
Yeah, and why I'm mentioning it now because he wanted his dream of Tim Ferriss was to interview Richard Branson for many years, and finally, Richard Branson obviously is a very very busy person. He travels a lot all the time around the world. So
Hmm.
basically, the podcast interview was made through phone, and Richard Branson was basically in Morocco when he was doing this interview on this podcast with Tim Ferriss. So you can hear some sound from Morocco or from the streets when he's in his interview in the podcast.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna check it out. I'm starting to get bigger and bigger on podcasts, so it's good you tell me. I've been wanting to, start listening more actively to some of those podcasts as I travel or go to, from one place to another. I think it's really cool.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Keep moving. So where was I with my story? I told you I came to Israel. I finished high school here when I was 18 back in 1998.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll try to focus on the more business and entrepreneurial side because if not, we can go on for hours. So I won't share with you now. When I was finished high school, I was 18. So basically, I went to the army because that's what you do here.
Hmm.
So I was in the army
Wow,
for a
wow, dude.
year, yes,
Yeah,
which was very interesting as well. Interesting life experience.
yeah. We'll have to talk about like the army life, like in a different episode or whatever.
Yeah, that's enough for a whole episode on itself. So there's enough content for a many episode. Divorcing, growing up, moving countries as an immigrant, going to the army. I think by touching on those points, I think it can a lot of people, a lot of our listeners can definitely relate to some part of that. I'm sure like someone who is listening either moved between countries or his parents divorced or
Hmm. Hmm.
had some interesting experiences in his life as well. So I hope that by sharing what I've been through, I can also maybe help
Yes.
others and inspire others.
Yes, no, that's literally what this podcast is all about, to inspire others and to help others with their journey, so they know that they're not alone, and that we all struggle in some way or another. But it really comes down to how you get up after you fall and how you push through a lot of those challenges. So hopefully our listeners can find a lot of this information like super super useful. And yeah, no, that's great, man.
Okay, so I was just sharing with you, about the army, which we're going to go into maybe in the other podcast. And fast forward, I was telling you about the Jerry Maguire, the movie, and this whole sport agency business.
Yes,
So
yes, definitely.
that in 2004, I got married, and of course it's made a change because suddenly I had to basically to pay bills every month, right? So until my marriage, I used to live with my parents at home. So and I was in university and had some jobs, but basically didn't have too many responsibilities. But when I got married, obviously I had to start to pay all the bills, and having more responsibility um, led to the fact that I was basically looking for some income. So, I started by looking for some jobs, and I found a job at a tech company, a local
Okay.
tech company,
Yes.
which actually was um, basically one of the first companies to build upon, voice over IP, VoIP, basically like Skype. but before Skype.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
maybe they were the first Skype before Skype. And I was working there in the like basically customer support and technical support.
Hmm.
And I think I worked there for about a year and a half. And during that time, I saw that they were starting basically to thinking about outsourcing and basically moving the whole department to India, because
Oh, no
simply,
way.
yeah, because simply it was cheaper, right? Think about it
Hmm.
today. Many companies, including all the major big
Yeah, it's
US companies,
all outsourcing. Yeah.
they're all outsourced to India. And you can hear it sometimes in the accent. If you call to a customer service, you're hearing Indian guy. And by the way, even if you're calling customer service for Apple or Google, it will be an Indian guy. So
Wow,
even those
wow.
big companies, they like to save those precious dollars and outsource everything which is possible.
Right.
So, so I saw. First of all, I didn't feel very comfortable in a job. I felt it's not really for me, and
Yeah.
for my mentality. But I had to do it. I wanted to try also, and to learn from that experience.
Of course, of
So,
course.
I saw that there is no real future in general. I think in the job market, and that the employment market is shifting. And what was working very well for my parents' generation will not work well for my generation,
Yeah, no,
right?
things were starting to shift like real fast.
Yeah, so it's finished are the days of simply going to college, learning one profession, working at one company for all of your career for 30 years, and that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no,
Finished
like
are those days.
everything was starting to shift with the internet happening and like so many things, you know.
Right. And um, so they moved me basically because I was one of the good guys. They gave me a second opportunity in the when they closed the department. They moved it to India. They switched me to another department,
Hmm.
and but they basically put me like in more less hours, right? So I
Hmm.
started to think about what would be next, what should I do, what can I do, and basically I had an opportunity, like everything is, what do you call serendipity. So
Yes.
I went back to Belgium on a flight. And in the flight, it happened to be that I sat next to um, someone which looked like an athlete, a sports athlete, which was basically a soccer player, right? He was a soccer player from Africa. And his neighbor sitting next to him on the flight was a guy from my hometown, from Antwerp, Belgium. And we started to talk, and it happened to be that he was working as a football player agent. So I said, "No way, you're a football player agent. This is your player." Yeah,
Wow.
and and then it just directly I thought about this movie I used to watch and love, Jerry Maguire, and I said, you know what, maybe it's a sign, and maybe if he can do it, maybe I can do it as well. And I said to myself, wait a minute, I'm from Belgium, right? I know very well,
Right.
football in Belgium, but now I
Right.
live in Israel, and I follow also very much football in Israel. Maybe I should
Mm.
start to bring players and bridge between those two markets.
Right.
And so
Huh.
this is what I started to do basically. So this was my first real venture as a entrepreneur.
Okay.
So
That was
I
like your very first venture, eh?
I would say my first real like serious venture. And, before that, when I was in college, I worked a little bit in the real estate market as a real estate
Hmm.
broker. So I
Oh, I
tried.
didn't know that either. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I tried everything. I told you I like to
that
try things.
and that's why you're also super passionate about the real estate, which we'll probably leave that also for another episode and dive into real estate and what's happening in the market and the future of that market, of course, because it's all about like marketing, the future, influence, like all that different stuff. And so yeah, I love to hear about that stuff as well. But yeah, keep going. So then you try this and what happened?
Yes. Yeah. So I tried real estate. I took the license, basically the test to become a real estate broker.
Mm.
And like I said before, like you can sell something or sell another thing, a product or a service. It's just sales. It's sales. It's marketing. It's
Right.
negotiations. It's the same skills, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of times you'll find a lot of successful entrepreneurs. They touch a little bit about, they tried a few different things, but they
Mhm.
have a lot of things in common. All those
Right.
things.
Oh, totally. I agree with you. Yeah, sales. It's kind of like that influence side of things, right? So it's like no matter what business you're in, like there's always going to be that sales component because you gotta sell at the end of the day. You gotta close on either the product or the service side of things or whatever you're doing, but you need to sell it regardless to make money, right?
Right, exactly. And one of the other aspects of that is also having a natural tendency to, every time you see something or you read about something or you meet someone, that straight it jumps to your mind that, oh, you see an opportunity. You see like how
Hmm.
you could sell
Like
something,
yeah,
flip
profit from
something,
it.
profit from
Uh-huh.
something. Exactly.
Got it.
And
Got
that's
it.
something which I can't control. It's just a reflex. It's like part of my nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is
No, that
something which
makes
I've
that makes
been,
sense.
with has been with me for all my life,
Oh,
as
of
long as
course,
I can
since
remember.
since the movies, since your dad being an entrepreneur as well, so kind of really instilled that in you, and you're now like opening your eyes to all these opportunities, right?
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, so I started to work on this big project of mine in the sports industry, and I said to myself, okay, so I know the data, right? I know the statistics, I know the basics, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
what do I need the most? What do you need the
Hmm.
most? You need connection.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
need to know the right people, right?
Yes.
Uh, it's all about networking, right?
Yeah, it's not what you know, but who you know, type of thing.
Exactly. Especially in,
Yeah,
in, in this industry, in the
yeah.
sports industry, because it's like a small industry, meaning not small
Right.
money wise, but small meaning the number of actors and players around, right, involved in that. So there's
Hmm.
just as many, for example, there are like, 20 high professional teams in each country, right?
Yes.
And there are like, 20 players per team. So, and there were in those times maybe um, 10, 10 to 15 active agents in every country.
Hmm.
So it was really like uh, a small market.
Hmm.
So to
Hmm.
break into a small market, what is the best way? But I was reading, I read some books also about this industry.
Yeah.
Smart move. ABC of
Hmm.
building a business.
Right.
Research, try to read books, and then try to connect with the right people.
Right.
So
Right.
I made some research, looked for who would be like the top three agents in my market, in my industry,
Hmm.
and I reached out to all three of them. And basically, I was looking for some kind of
Very, very good
mentorship.
move. Very good move, by the way. Like you had the self awareness enough to say, hey, I really need to look for some of the people that are ahead of me, so they can shortcut my learning curve and just kind of tell me what to do, what not to do, and like I think that was genius, dude.
Thank you. Exactly. That was exactly the idea. So I reached out to the top three. I tried all the approaches, cold emails, trying to find their phone numbers, trying to meet them
Yeah,
at events.
yeah, because
And
the social media wasn't even that big yet. Eh?
exactly. So I did use the internet. I did
Yeah,
use the internet a lot in this
yeah.
business, and maybe later on I'll also touch on how did I use the internet to really make things happen, and
Got
how
it.
I saved a lot of money by using the internet. I saved a lot of time, and also made a lot of money thanks to the internet. Even that business back in those days, back
Mm-hmm.
like I'm talking about, like 12, 13 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I reached out to the first one, the number one, and
Mm-hmm.
he was friendly, but basically he said he's not looking for any interns and partners right now.
Oh, okay.
So then
Okay.
I went to number two, and the number two said, he was very friendly, but he said that he's already working with his brother as his
Mm-hmm.
partner. So also he didn't have anything to offer me. And then I went to
Mm-hmm.
number three, and he was more open-minded. He was also a younger guy, but still he was in the top three. And he agreed to meet me, and one thing led to another, and he agreed to mentor me. Then he wanted to take me in as a business partner, as an equity partner in his agency. And I basically spent, like close to a year with him. He introduced me to all the coaches and players and big players in my industry, and I got to really get into the into the how do you say, the practical side of things of the business, right? So it really gave me the hands-on experience that I needed, as well as the connections.
Got it. Yeah.
But you also have to learn things the hard way. So unfortunately, it didn't end the right way, because it turned out that he didn't show me all the numbers that he wanted and share with me all the financials. And basically, he saw an opportunity also on his side to take advantage of me financially.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So
No.
I had, I invested $20,000, which back, in
30,000 or
$20,000
yes,
and
still a lot of money.
it was a lot of money for me. It was basically all my savings of my wedding. Plus, also I took a loan from my uncle.
Oh, wow.
For 10,000, so 20,000, and unfortunately, he basically kicked me out of the company and took all the money and closed the company, something like that. So this is what happened. Yeah, so I lost $20,000. I learned a very hard lesson in life.
Part of entrepreneurship, we always like losing money too. Like people sometimes think it's all like just fun and games, and you're only an entrepreneur when you have all the right pieces together. But that's not true at all. Like
Right.
We are losing money all the time, testing new things, and that's part of the game.
Exactly, and I was something like 24 years old, so I had to learn some hard lessons in
Yeah,
life.
the hard way. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, later on, I actually, my wife happens to be a lawyer, and she helped me to sue him, and at the end we got to compromise in court, and I happened to got back half of my investment, so at least I could pay back the loan I took from my uncle. So at least
That's good.
Yeah. So lesson learned.
Lesson learned, exactly.
But I got a lot from it. Despite that, I got the connections, I got the experience. So I started. So I wasn't at zero. I already built my name for myself. I had already an address book and phone book of people I could reach out to.
Yes.
And I started to work on that and going on my own. So once again, it's all about networking and going to events and building relationships with players.
So, no kids yet. No kids yet at this point. Okay, good.
Yet.
Yeah.
My wife is working as a lawyer, long hours, and I'm trying to make it work. And basically, now the thing is, she said, in the meantime, until I make some money, because you have to know, like. When you're working as as an agent or as a broker, you're paid on commission, right? So you don't get a monthly salary, you don't get any residual income.
Yeah, you're basically your own boss anyway.
Yeah, I'm my own boss anyway, but I don't get like cash flow every day. Basically, I get money whenever I close a deal, right? And in those sports agencies, you don't close deal every day, because there are like seasons, there are like some periods in the year where you can close deals. So there's like only about 2 months a year where you can close deals. And all the rest of the time is working on relationships, on preparing everything and business development. So what she said in the meantime, get maybe something in the meantime to get some cash to pay the bills. So I tried to look for a solution, and I didn't want to give up on my my business, building my business, and I knew it would take some months. So I looked for a solution for getting some cash. So what did I do?
Takes time, dude.
So I look for a job which can allow me to keep working on my own business, but still
Yeah, to
get
kind of
some
like
cash.
develop your exactly like developing your business as you're working. So what was this job that you got to give you some cash flow?
So the job I took was basically what you call in English, paper boy. So basically, I was distributing newspapers,
Oh wow, yep.
to doors of subscribers, daily newspapers, and I was doing it
Uh-huh.
by car and foot.
Yeah.
So, and it was a night job, right? Because
Got it.
newspaper has to come to the customer's door at by 6:30 a.m.
Yes.
So what it means that for 6 months, every day, every weekday, like 5 times a week, I used to wake up at like 2:45 in the morning every day, 2:45 in the morning. Wake up in the middle of the night, take the car, go to the warehouse, um, fill in the car, the whole trunk with newspapers, and having
Right.
my line, my neighborhood, where I had to distribute papers.
Oh wow. Yeah. Eh,
Winter, summer,
wow.
rain,
Yes, you were doing
cold,
like
freezing,
a night shift on top
night
of it,
shift.
eh?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
I had no choice because I had to take night shift because I wanted to work during the day on my business, right?
Mhm.
And so the only way to work and still work on my own business was to work
Mhm.
during the night. So I worked from 3 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock in the morning, like for 4 hours.
Wow, you
But
were hustling hard.
yeah, but at least those 4 hours, I got like a decent pay. I got like maybe like something like $600 per month for those 4 hours of work, for 5 days a week, which was quite nice for such a job.
Hmm.
Like hourly pay, it was better than going and being a bartender or I don't know, a bouncer or whatever, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I was distributing newspapers. Now the thing is, first of all, it was a great support because I had to go, you have to go upstairs in every building, sometimes second floor, third floor, walking around, going up and down. So it got me into shape.
Yeah, definitely.
But I want to share with you one valuable thing, and that's I think it's important really to take advantage of every situation.
Hmm.
So I took
I
advantage of the
like that.
night shift.
Yes.
I took advantage of the sport, the physical side of it,
Of
but I also
course.
took advantage of what can I do to learn something, to consume some
Hmm.
content during that time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
what did I do? I had a small MP3 player, right? There was
Uh-huh.
no podcast yet, no smartphone, but
No.
I had an MP3 player.
Right.
So I downloaded some audiobooks.
Very
Um,
cool. Very
you know,
smart.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh wow. You went straight to the good stuff.
Exactly. Also downloaded the book by a guy named Donald Trump. Maybe you heard about him.
No way. I didn't know that either. That's crazy.
Yeah, and by the way,
Very
he has
cool.
a great book. Definitely
Yeah, no,
recommend
I
it.
mean he's a great businessman regardless. I mean, yeah, he's gone tons of bankrupt and whatnot, but I mean I think that he gets money, he gets business, and that's why he's been successful with business, right?
Exactly. So I used the time, this night shift, those 2 3 hours when I was working. I had my earphones and I listened to interesting content. So it helped me to be motivated, to learn new things, and to feel much better with what I was doing and the way I was doing things.
Right, right. No,
So
that's awesome. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's a first part of a long story, a life story.
Yeah, life story. No, no, that's awesome, man. I mean, I want to hear more about it and go even deeper on certain things like leading towards the online world and the internet and kind of how you got dipped into all of that stuff. But yeah, I think that we should definitely have a part two, which we'll do on next episode. So yeah, I think you shared some awesome stuff and enough for people to understand a couple things. Number one, that business, like anyone can get into business, you just have to have the stamina and the patience enough to fail and get back up, right? And lose money and get back up and try new things and keep learning. And it's always this work in progress that just never stops.
Exactly. You need patience, takes time. I think the basics, everyone tells you the same basics. And if
Yeah.
everyone is saying that, it means there is some truth into that.
Yes, exactly. And they've gone through like failures and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you've said, I've also relate to and can identify myself with that as well. So yeah, I'm excited to talk more about that stuff too. And I'll share some things about my own journey on part two. And yeah, I think it's been great, man. It's been very insightful, this conversation, this episode on two-part episode now that we made it into all about purpose, all about entrepreneurship, and our stories of how we got to where we are right now.
Yeah, and hopefully, and God willing, it's going to be maybe like a 200 or 300 at least episodes of this podcast. So we'll have time to go into everything, later on. So I want to thank everyone for having the patience. If you've been listening until now, then thank you. I really have a lot of respect for your time and for allowing me to share with you guys a part of my personal journey.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for diving in deep and like basically opening to everything that happened from some of your ancestors, surviving the Holocaust, to some of your first entrepreneur steps, and now into kind of like the last story with the real estate and whatnot that you shared. And yeah, we're looking forward to listening to more of that on part two. Just to wrap it up, I would love for you to say in Hebrew, like, goodbye, thanks for listening, like kind of like say bye to the episode. I love to hear you speak a little bit of Hebrew or even some French or both, like, just so our listeners can get a little flavor of that, culture and your background with all the languages that you know.
So I'll do something special for you, Andres, because
Yeah,
you
please.
asked. I'm going to give you a thank you and good evening in 3 languages, and maybe we
Perfect.
will let our listeners guess those 3 languages. So
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah, why
to
not?
say them. I'm going to say those 3 languages, and
Okay.
then I'll let you guess. And you're welcome, listeners, to give us some feedback about those languages.
Yeah,
So
I like that. I like that.
here we go. Bedankt, goedenavond, merci, bonsoir, toda rabba, erev tov. That's
Mhm.
it.
Awesome. I'm like, did you just go into, like, I detected some French, but I don't know, did you mix other stuff too, or was it only French?
Oh, it was 3 languages.
Oh, it was all three. Wow, you see, like I have a lot to learn. I think one of my personal projects at some point is to definitely learn Hebrew. I've always loved that language and the history of it, and from the Bible especially, because I love reading Old Testament, New Testament, everything, and a big portion of the Bible is written in Hebrew and Aramaic, right? So I love to dive deeper into Hebrew. But yeah, Jeremy, thanks so much for sharing with us this story, and yeah, we'll see if the listeners can guess the other 2 languages that I don't even know which ones you shared.
Okay, Andres, thank you very much for having this podcast today, this episode, and I'm looking forward to our next one very, very soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode, part 1 of Purpose. If you want to learn more about who we are and what we do, visit aeroviewmedia.com/blueprint so you can learn more about our process. Also, check out anchor.fm/aeroviewmedia if you want to just keep in touch with all of these episodes that we're going to be doing. And we also have a group where you can join, aeroviewmedia.com/podcast, and it'll take you right there to that Facebook group. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check us out at aeroviewmedia.com/blueprint, where you can get a free blueprint of our process so you can also learn how to enroll clients online. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.